Hi guys, happy Sunday. Happy Sunday. Look, I am so excited, y'all. It is another Sunday and another episode for Chit Chat Podcast. So check in, guys. Check in, check in, check in. Let us know that you are checking in and that you're all uh, look, I want us to dive into these discussions today. We have an open chat discussion. We don't do open chat discussion often, but when we do, y'all know it's usually about some juicy topics or discussions or some much needed conversations that we need to have. And today we're going to have two topics of discussions that are big trending topics on social media right now. And so I want you guys to check in with us. Let us know where you're checking in from as well. Check in, check in. Hello, hello. Happy Sunday. Look, my Buccaneers just lost. I'm a little upset about that, but my Bulldogs won last night. So look, and Peach County Trojans won on Friday. So look, that's 2 out of 3. I guess I guess I can't complain too bad. But yeah, the Bucks, they just them penalties killed us at the end. But it's football Sunday, y'all. And look, and it's the big game of the week, y'all, for us this week. It's the Yale Bulldogs against Harvard. So so this is hate week for us. That's what we call it. I'm a Yale mom, so we call it hate week. So yeah, y'all gonna see all kind of little hate stuff going towards in the Ivy League, going towards the big game of the Ivy League, and that's the Harvard against Yale Bulldogs. And look, I'm telling you, everybody is tuned into this. And this is the first year that the Ivy League gets to be eligible for the college playoffs. So this game is very big for many reasons. It's big for the Ivy League championship, and it's big for who gets to go to the college for the first college playoffs for the Ivy League. So this game is big time. So we're all excited. We're trying to get up there to go to the game this week. We're gonna be cheering. I'm gonna take my cowbell. Y'all know I'm a down south football mom, so you know how us football moms in the South do it. We have the cowbell. So I'm going to try to join my senior football moms who we started out as freshman football moms. And although my son stopped playing football right before his junior year, I still remain in contact with the football moms. And so I want to finish the last big game with them as senior moms and enjoy the game with them and tailgate, of course. And so and cheer the senior boys on. So because we started together, so we're gonna end together as a family. And so I'm pretty excited about that. So yeah, so it's definitely a big game for us this week. So yeah. So our boys are seniors. And so we're gonna be cheering our heart out for the Bulldogs this week. So Bula Bula, that's what we say in Bulldog country in at Yale. So but go Yale, have a great week. Get focused. Let's take this W this week so we can get to the college playoffs and show the college playoffs what the Ivy Leagues are all about. So pretty excited for them. But anywho, while you guys are checking in, let me see. I see Mr. Jesse. Hey, Mr. Jesse, one of our faithful watchers and listeners who live outside the country. So we are so grateful for you checking in week after week. Thank you for checking in and being so faithful as you do it. Look, y'all. So we know that you know, if you are a big social media person and you know, pay attention to the things that are happening on social media, um, the last week or so, there has been a big trending story on social media based off the Alienation of Affection Law. And if you have not been aware of that law, we're going to talk about it today. We're going to discuss it today. But and we're going to tell you all about it as well. We're going to discuss what it is, what it's about, and all of that. But it was based off a couple from North Carolina who marriage was dissolved, was interfered by another person, and their marriage ended by the interference of that person. And that person who happened to be a social media influencer, um, kind of paraded that, you know, that opportunity of pulling that person from their marriage. And in the end, the spouse filed a lawsuit because her state had the Alienation of Affection Law in place and was awarded just the other day a $1.75 million lawsuit against the person that ended her marriage. And so we're going to talk about that. Yeah, it was her best friend. Yeah, her best friend, actually. The girl was actually her best friend. They was prior friends. And so, we're going to talk about that. So, yeah, it's a lot to dig into that story, but a lot to dig into that law as well, because not every state handles that law. And so because not every state handles that law, you know, it's not something that is, if you didn't get married in a state that has adopted that law, you can't pretty much, utilize that. So we're going to talk about that. So where is the Alienation of Affection Law recognized? So let's start that off. So the Alienation of Affection Law is recognized in the following states. It is recognized in the state of Hawaii, the state of North Carolina, of course, because that's where we know that the lawsuit was granted the other day. The state of Mississippi, the state of New Mexico, South Dakota, and Utah. So these are the current states that this law is currently recognized. And so if you want to know, like, what is alienation of affection? So alienation of affection is a civil lawsuit that allows a person to kind of sue a third party for intentionally ruining their marriage. And while is recognized in some states and not recognized in others, um, the person can seek financial compensation for loss of love, for companionship from their marriage. And if they succeed, they must prove that the third party's actions were intentional and ultimately led to the marriage breakdown with evidence of infidelity or other deliberate interference. And then I found out when I was doing the research, um, how it works is the person that's doing the suing, which is the plaintiff, must prove that the marriage was happy, must prove that the marriage was happy before the third party's interference. So you have to prove that it was a happy marriage before the third party's interference. It must demonstrate that the third party's action was intentional and substantial factor. It was a substantial factor in causing the loss of affection and the subsequent end of the marriage. Um, if successful, a plaintiff may be awarded financial damages to compensate for emotional distress and the breakdown of the marriage. So it says it is it is an emotional and financial demanding process that requires a high burden of proof. It is recommended to definitely consult with an experienced attorney to determine if you have a valid claim, especially since the law varies by state. So so pretty much every state might have different qualifications or different guidelines or stipulations that they're going to go by or substantiate things by to inquire to say this is what substantiate this claim or substantiate this to be a valid claim or a valid um, proposition for a lawsuit. So but let's dig into this. So Um, do you think, um, do you think, as a just insane, the fact that she proved he was happy is embarrassing on the mistress part. Right, because um yeah, that's one of the burden of proof that you have to provide um in filing the suit, that you have to provide that the marriage was indeed a happy marriage, that it was a successful or happy marriage, and that the person who intentionally, interfered with the marriage, um, interfered with, in intentions of breaking that happy marriage. So, our first question: should a third party be held legally responsible for breaking up a marriage? So, so we're gonna throw that question out there to you guys. Should Do you think a third party should be legal responsible for breaking up a marriage? Now, when I researched the alienation of affection law, I also found out that it does not always have to be the third party who the person is cheating with. The third party can also be a counselor, it can be a therapist, it can be a pastor or a preacher. So if there's someone who has provided guidance or um, have provided reasoning to tell another spouse to leave their marriage based off of giving advice or counseling or whatever, and that person decides to leave that marriage based off of the advice of that third party, which could be like a counselor, a therapist, a pastor, a preacher, whoever, that person, that spouse can sue those people as well. So it don't have to be it don't have to just be the cheating person. It can be like a counselor, a therapist, or whoever who has advised that person to leave that marriage or whatever, and that person has left their marriage based off the advice of that advising person. So I was researching that and I was like, wow. So yeah, so there can be multiple lawsuits actually based off the alienation of affection law. So so based off of knowing that, our question is, should a third party be held legally responsible for breaking up a marriage? What do you guys think? Let's chat about that. What do you guys think about that? Second and third party. Yes, indeed. Okay, you said yes, indeed. And I think what really what I saw, because I saw mixed comments um on social media about as I was following the storyline, but most of the support I did see did support the spouse who filed the lawsuit, and which I was very pleased to see, because in today's time, because so many people have strayed away from the traditional the the traditional thoughts of marriage have changed in today's society. I didn't feel like a lot of support would be given to her, but because I saw the support that was given to her, I was pleased about that, because it shows that the sanctity of marriage is still being honored and supported and respected, and that to me is important. So I think third parties should, yes, both parties involved, especially having knowledge of a marriage. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think third parties should be held liable if they knew that that was going on, which is this situation. Absolutely. If you knowingly knew, if you knowingly knew, and in this case, apparently this girl knew and she paraded the information. Like she talked about, like, one upping this woman about taking her man and all this kind of stuff. And you know what? That's the thing. You know what I'm saying? But you know, karma is real. Them tables do turn, baby. I don't think a third party should be held liable. Why is that, Tequila? Why you don't think a third party should be liable? Jesse Sutton, yes. Dinah said people should seriously need to be held more accountable for their actions. Okay, okay. Okay, so we got some mixed views. So those of you who think that the third party should not be held accountable, let me know why you think they shouldn't. Why you feel like they shouldn't be held accountable. And those of you who think they should, give me some reasons why you think they should. Diana said it's hard not to find something out about someone. We have so many resources now; it's inexcusable in this day and age. That's true. We look. Google is our friend. People look, and we are look. Women, if nothing else, we are phonologists. We gonna find something out. If we don't, one of our best girlfriends is an investigator, and she will find out stuff. So you definitely right about that. Tequila said the marriage is between two parties, the commitment, terms, etc. Okay, I get that. I get that. But based off the law, the Alienation of Affection Law, the law the law pertains to the third party. It doesn't pertain to the spouse. So, like, the spouse cannot sue the spouse for cheating. It has to be the outside party. So, whether it's the cheating party, or it's the person who advised. So sometimes it can be a family member. If it's a meddling mother-in-law, the meddling mother-in-law could be they can go after the meddling mother-in-law if she's advised that person to leave that spouse based off of you know uh, the marriage being dissolved because of that. So but based off the law, yeah, it can be anyone who has interfered. So it doesn't necessarily have to be the cheating person. It can be someone who has interfered based off of um the law details, and that could be family members, friends, the cheating partner, counselor, therapist, all of that. So Donna said it comes to a point in where do your morals lie as a woman or man? It's so many people out here, and you go for someone who's in a commitment. It says a lot about your esteem and your value as a person. I agree. I agree. The marriage is between two parties, yes, but with the knowledge of knowing someone is married and you're just willingly giving yourself to a married man, you should be held accountable. But I also think the spouse should be held accountable as well. Absolutely. Like, I don't think that the spouse should be. I don't think that they should be scot free on this. Like, I think that yes, the third party is a guilty person, but I mean, who's the main character in this? The main character in this is definitely the spouse that, was the main participant. I understand that. I think the blame should be focused on the party who made the vows, regardless of the law, which is what I don't agree with. Absolutely. It should be the spouse because they're the main participant. Absolutely. The emotional trauma that brings to that person, and if the children are involved, that's also bring trauma to the children as well. And because they will start acting out because of the circumstance. Yeah. And because they did have children, I think that was her burden of proof as well. In her case, everyone's morals aren't the same. And that's true. Everybody don't have the same morals. That is so very true. And we saw in this case, we saw in it's valid in this case. Everybody morals aren't the same because I still don't think that influencer thinks she did anything wrong. She thought she would rightfully or justifiably so in her duties of rearing that guy to herself. And so she unapologetically, still feels the same. Like, and her thought process is the spouse is just jealous because I took him, and that's her response. But my whole thought process is that, where where are we in blaming the other spouse in this? So, you know, that's he's the middle person. We're not putting any blame on him. And so, but at the end of the day, because they had children, and I think her burden of proof was highly recognized in that, and because the other person was a social media influencer and was utilizing that platform to parade a lot of this information, it presented a lot of the evidence she needed to present her case in showing that, how the interference of her life with her children, the things that how it exposed her and her children to the emotional distress. I put them out there, showcasing and put them out there, embarrassing them, all this kind of stuff. And so I think, that was her burden of proof in a lot of this. And so, you know, sometimes social media is, um, you know, can be our Achilles heel. Sometimes it helps and sometimes it hurts you. She doesn't think she was wrong. That's why she said that Akira won't see that money she won. Look, she can say that all she wants to. If she feels like that woman won't see that, she'll be behind bars and she won't be seeing no money from TikTok or anything else. So I mean that's on her. I believe once you start inserting yourself in other people's connection knowingly, it will always be hard for you to find love and commitment. An old saying. Yep, yep. You know, sometimes, you have to be careful how you laugh at somebody else's pain, because their pain today might be your pain tomorrow. And so, you know, and I'm a firm believer. What goes around comes around. So them tables do turn, So, like them old people always say, just keep living, baby. You know. So, laugh now, cry later. You know, that's my whole thing. Laugh not, cry later. And so you don't ever laugh at another person's pain, and especially not another person's pain that you have caused. Because at the end of the day, the pain that you have caused, you best to believe, you're gonna reap everything that you have sown. And so and that's on Bible. And that ain't got to be on the person speaking that to you. That's on Bible. And so with that, people have to be careful how they sit there and think, because they're parading or they're putting things, or they're putting things out there, or whatever. Everything you put out there, um whatever you put out there coming right back to you. So, so be mindful what you putting out there, or whatever, whether it's energy or whatever you're saying, whatever you're doing, it's gonna come back. And you have to be mindful what it is that you're putting out there, because if it's something good, bad, or ugly, it's coming back. So is this law outdated, um or does it protect families? Do you think this law is outdated, or does it protect families? Do you think it protect families still, or do you think it's outdated? I personally think, I don't think it's outdated, but I do think some of it needs, excuse me, I think some of it needs to be updated. I think it could use some provisions. And I definitely think this law could definitely be adopted for every state. And the reason why I say that is because I've been divorced, and because one of the implications of going through a divorce is they always want you to go through mediation. They always want you, and especially if you have kids, they always want you to go through mediation, or they always want you to go through family counseling, or they always want you to do these. There's certain stipulations you have to do um, with family law when it comes to divorce, especially if kids are involved. So I think based off that law, um, I think some provisions could be made because, there's so many different things that have changed with um, marriage not being so traditional anymore. And I think because of that, they could update and they can make some provisions, add some provisions to the law pertaining to some things so that it covers um, other things that protects families in situations that could occur now that may not have occurred when it established those laws way back then. So that's my input. So, what you guys think? Absolutely, we should have more laws to protect families, and maybe people would act like they have some sense. Yeah, I mean, it'll hold people accountable. Accountability is what's at stake here. It's outdated for sure. I think it needs some provisions. I think it should be in every state. Yes, updated. Okay, definitely outdated though. Yeah. The alienation of spouse law circumvents the real issue because it places legal responsibility on a third party rather than the person who made the vows. It allows someone to sue an outsider instead of addressing a breakdown within a relationship itself. It bypasses personal accountability, ignores the agency of the spouse who chose to engage, and creates a legal loophole that treats the adult as if they can be stolen like property. I get that. I actually get that because it does seem like it's treating something as property. But then you got to understand that at the same time, if we look at it based off when this law was established uh based off traditional marriage, then if it's based off traditional marriage and how traditional marriage is established and viewed, then the sanctity of that marriage or that commitment or that covenant or whatever is that spouse, that spouse and that spouse's, significant other is to be to remain that sanctity of that marriage. So anytime they go outside of that or outside of that covenant or whatever, or someone has lured them outside of that covenant or whatever, then it's not like they've been stolen or whatever, but the responsibility, even though the responsibility relies on those two people who made the vows, I get what you're saying about it being a property, like a stolen property thing. However, that is dissolved within, like, if they plan to stay within their marriage or they plan to divorce or whatever the case may be. But if that person chooses to go outside of the marriage or whatever based off whatever has lured them outside of the marriage, then I think it's liable. That's a liability. That's just like anything else that's a liability that pulls, you know, you or somebody else outside of the normality of you doing what you normally do. If you know that, you stay in the ramifications of what you normally do with your job, and then here comes the company that's your competition, and they're saying, oh, we know that you wanted the stellar, um performers at your job. you know we want you to look at some of the things that we have going on and tell us what you think that we could do better over here. And so they're looking for your input over here, and you're giving them input over here, and so they're reaping the benefits for the input, your input over there or whatever. So they kind of don't lured you over there, but you still tied to your company or whatever, but you already given them benefits over here. So, that's a liability. It's a liability. And so even though you still tied to your company, it's still a liability because now you don't you don't provide the information. You don't gave information. You're entertaining the information over there. So it's a liability. Harm done, Jesse. Yeah. So if you're telling me that somebody close to you take your partner's spouse, you wouldn't want compensation for them as well. I understand why you're saying based on the law, but I feel like both parties, based on certain circumstances, should both be getting sued. People literally lose their life depending on who you're done with that with. Yeah, I agree. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think I read something now the where the influencer ex-husband is now suing. So now he is suing. He is going to provide a lawsuit. So so now he's going to be seeking a lawsuit or whatever. So yeah. Um, what's good for the goose is good for the gander, I guess. So you know, look, I guess he said it was successful for this spouse, so let me go ahead and work mine and let it work for me. So yeah. So I mean, but it goes to show you have to be very careful and mindful. And especially in these states that has this law, you have to be very careful and mindful of how you conduct your um because even though it's a moral issue or whatever, um, you have to be careful how you handle your business because at the end of the day, you become a liability. And when you become a liability, there's consequences to that in certain states. And this is one of those states that it was a consequence. And at the end of the day, it became a $1.75 million consequence. So, and a lesson to you know everybody else in the world about the sanctity of marriage and who's next in trying to try somebody else in their marriage and what they're trying to do, crossing the lines. So if you can provide not just moral recognition but financial compensation for harm done, it can provide. Yeah, if you're willing to participate in someone else's chaos, you deserve the smoke that comes with it. We hold third parties responsible in every other areas of life, so we draw the line in a relationship. Let's be serious. Yeah, like why? I mean, that's big on yes, because mind you, the third party cheated on her husband, who's the plaintiff's husband's cousin. It's disgusting. Yeah, like it's very deep. Like if y'all really, I'm not gonna get all into it, but if y'all really like read into like the whole scenario of this whole situation, it is so messy. Oh my God, it's so messy. I don't even want to get into it because I don't like mess. But substance abuse issues can have the same effect. Who's liable for consuming? I wouldn't want anything from anyone except my husband, not even a conversation with the third party. I get it. I mean, but everybody will be different. I mean, everybody will be different as far as like what will compensate them in the sense of um making them feel like they this is what um this is what they feel like they have, um, you know, I guess, received, as far as like a compensation of the things that they've endured or whatever. But at the end of the day, there's children that's been involved. And so all that hurt and healing that has to take place and the humiliation or whatever, at the end of the day, and someone who's been through humiliation when it comes to like a relationship and being and cheating and all that kind of stuff, you don't ever like you can love out loud with people all the time, and and the humiliation and all that kind of stuff, you know will be louder because you don't ever expect that because, you who expects to be humiliated by the person you love? And so who expects to be done wrong by the person that you love? Nobody's expecting that. And so, those things, when those things happen, you know, the compensation that these laws, provides is not to say there's amount of money that can pay for the hurt and the heartbreak that you've experienced. No, it's pretty much to set the example to say, no, like, this is what not to do, so people know, oh, that was an example. So we know that, we need to uphold our marriage, or we need to do certain things, or we need to work this thing out, or we need to make sure that we can work through this kind of thing, because at the end of the day, we go through something like this, we got the public humiliation, we got the compensation and stuff that we got to, the possible compensation that we have to do, all this stuff that takes place with this actual lawsuit. And, at the end of the day, is it worth it? Some people say it might be, but, in other words, is it worth going through all of that, exposing everything, just so that way it's more stuff that you got to heal from at the end? Would alienation of affection laws change how people behave in relationships? Do y'all honestly think that alienation of affection laws would change how people behave in relationships? If every state adopted this law, you think it would change the divorce rate? Do you think it would change how people behaved in relationships? Do you think? Because I was thinking about this as we was preparing for this episode today. I was thinking about the show Cheaters, and how we used to watch that show back in the day, and how they would do the videos, and they was pop up on the people, or they would do the videos and they would show the person the videos, how they got the videos of their person cheating for the whole time, and then they'll find the person, and then they'll take their spouse to the where the person's located at, and they'll come up on them with a video, whatever. And I thought about that, and I was like, you know how many of those people who got caught on Cheaters actually stopped cheating? Like, that's what I want to know. Like, did those videos of them actually getting caught cheating, did it stop them from cheating? Because the humiliation of being caught, or being put out there like that, being exposed, being put out there as a liar, or you know, my mom used to make when I tell you, my mom used to make things sound so bad. Like, when my mom would tell you, would talk about something or someone, she'd be like, if you'll lie, you'll steal. If a man will lie, if he'll lie, he'll steal. If he'll cheat, if he cheat once, he'll cheat again. She would just say things, and when she said, it would just stick to you. So it was just like, when she said it, it just stuck to you, and you just like, so you never forgot it. And so those kind of things like that. And so when I see like the Cheaters video or whatever, I just want to know, like, do people ever like change their behavior? Did those people in those videos change their behavior? Did they stop being cheaters? Did they learn their lessons, kind of thing? Or was the exposure enough, or whatever? Because sometimes that's what it takes for some people, because they think they're doing everything behind the scenes, not being seen, lying and scheming and doing things, and or whatever, until they're caught up. And then when they're caught up, and then it's like, oh, lights, camera, action, I don't want to be seen no more, kind of thing. But so do y'all honestly think, nope, it's so many ways to live a double life nowadays? It really is. It really is. There's so many people living double lives. Trust and believe. Sadly, yes and no, because it's just like people steal every day, sell drugs, etc. Yeah, Yeah, I don't think so because I feel like people find many ways to cheat, but maybe when they think they are hid in their pockets, then maybe, yeah, I think when laws like this are in place and, when you hit people where it hurts, sometimes it makes a difference. And that's what I was thinking, like with the cheaters video, like when they're exposed or when they're, when it hits where it hurts, does it make a difference to them? You know, people don't have no shame no more. You're right. I'm telling you that bring back shame. They like bring back shame. Like I'm serious. It's like people don't care. And so when you have that, it's like, where is the sanctity of like marriage and commitment and relationships? Because like, can we get back to that? Can we get back to like having that in place so that where people will feel like, you know, it's worth getting married. It's worth having a marriage because we want to make sure that we in a place where the foundation is strong, that people respect marriage and the boundaries and the commitment and the covenant of marriage like they used to, back in our grandmother days. Is it a behavior and addiction or just a no good person? Look, I don't know, classmate. I sometimes I just feel like people, because people don't have accountability, that when you don't have accountability or whatever, and then you have people that, you know, where anything goes. When you allow anything, like anything goes now, you know. You got people who say, hey, we can have poly relationships, we can have an open marriage, and those kind of things, tempt people. So they don't respect the boundaries of a committed relationship. They don't respect the boundaries of a person being committed in a relationship. Hey, I'm providing this, you know, you know, so, let me give you this. And so when people feel like, that's an opportunity, or, they're gonna jump on it. Hey, I don't have that over here. That's tempting. So, and everything now is like this big, I honestly feel like we're living in the life of um Sodom and Gomorrah right now. Like I feel like we're back in the Bible days. Like anything goes now. Like nothing is sanctified anymore. Nothing is sacred anymore. Everything is like anything goes. And it bothers me. It honestly bothers me. It really does. It bothers me that there's people out here that, they don't care. Anything goes. People, if they feel like more money is over here, they're gonna go over here. If they feel like, they can have an open thing over here and do what they want to do over here and not be in question of whatever, they're gonna do that over there. If they feel like they can lay and play and do whatever over here, that's what they're gonna do. Until there's laws like this are in place to hold people accountable for their actions and what they do or whatever, people won't ever be accountable for things. And so, you know, we can say, we can say that it works or it don't work, but it worked for this person just recently. And and whatever burden of proof that she provided, it was enough for them to award her the opportunity to say that you provided enough proof to us that alienation of affection was proven. And so you know unfortunately a family is torn apart, and healing has to take place and all of that. But at the end of the day, hopefully responsibility and accountability is taking place as well. And so those who are responsible for the damage and the hurt and the things that they have caused, hopefully they're taking full responsibility and accountability for that, whether they do it publicly or behind the scenes. Hopefully they're doing that. So But we have to stop using these as excuses because I personally always try to do better with everything. Absolutely. Absolutely. You have to. Absolutely. Amen to that. The blasphemy. Yes. Weak. Yes. We have lost strength. Yes. We got to get back. Look, we got to get back to like, putting the sanctity back into marriage and all of that because, you know, because shame don't apply if the morals don't align. It's a moral matter, not a legal one. Holding a third party responsible for vows they never it got legal due to go back. Yeah. It's a moral matter, not a legal one. Holding a third party responsible for vows they never made it, not the legal matter, in my opinion. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I agree with that too. I got legal due to that woman having no shame or morals. So it definitely applies. Another excuse. Yeah. Yeah. I think we probably can debate this, back and forth for a lot of reasons because there's so many issues. Um, you know, there's so many issues tied to this, and then from so many different views that people have, and then from different moral backgrounds as well. Should emotional interference be treated as serious as physical infidelity? So, what do you guys think? Should emotional interference be treated as serious as physical infidelity? Sometimes I think emotional interference is sometimes is worse than physical. And the reason why I say that because as women, we connect more on a emotional level that more so than physical. So men are more physical beings. So you see a lot of men when they cheat is more of a physical um, infidelity. When they step outside of the marriage or relationship or whatever, it's more of a physical thing. Women is more of a emotional thing. It's more of that person heard me, they understood me, they provided a safe space, that kind of thing. It may not even be about an intimacy or physical thing with them. It's an emotional tie thing with them. So sometimes the emotional tie can be just as strong or stronger than a physical infidelity. Because sometimes it's just that. In some cases, it's just that. It just be sex and that's it, to be honest. And it don't be nothing else tied to it. It's just, you know, let's be honest. And then, but when emotions are tied to anything, it's more serious because when you have emotions are tied to something, it's 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 is more than just a physical. Emotions can create physical, intimacy and physical infidelity. And when that happens, that can really be serious. But when you have an emotional tie to something over a physical, and then it becomes physical, that's a problem. So that's what I think. Should emotional interference be treated as serious as physical infidelity? I say yes. Ask about those people who have work husbands and work wives. Ask those people who have, work spouses and work relationships. Because there's emotional interferences. They may not be physically involved, but there's the emotional interference that are happening every time they're at work. So absolutely. So what say you guys before we go to I got one other yes, because it's mentally damages you. Yeah, it does. You talking about emotional ties it is more connected than a physical. I wish I would hear my man have a work wife. Don't play with me. Straight up. Look, she probably out there in steel toe boots and everything. Don't look, don't think it won't happen. Don't think it won't happen. And she won't look nothing like you. She won't look nothing like you. And it won't, and they don't care because it's an emotional thing. I'll show up as the program mama for a day messing with me. Program manager, okay. You don't need to, baby. Can you actually steal someone who wanted to stay? I don't think you can. I don't think you can steal someone who wanted to stay, because if someone wanted to stay, first of all, they gonna create boundaries and they gonna cut you off. Because if they want to stay where they at, they gonna cut you off because they're not gonna let hell or anything else keep them from breaking what they have at home. So if and first of all, I don't believe in stealing anyone anyways, like somebody some property like Tequila mentioned earlier. But anyone that can be pulled from home, um or whatever, can't be pulled from home unless they want to be pulled from home. And those that don't want to be pulled from home will stay at home and they will create those boundaries. And so those who don't create boundaries create situations like this. So, you know, that's easy said and done. You know, those who create boundaries don't have situations like this. Those who are incapable of creating boundaries, that's what you deal with, situations like this. Exactly. If they wanted to stay, nothing can move them. Exactly. I don't care if, baby, I don't care if uh Holly Berry walked the room. He ain't moving, you know? I don't care if Denzel came in there. I ain't moving. Not even for Rick Ross. They talk, wait a minute. In this case, she was bribing him with money which he didn't have, but was still going back and wanting his wife. That's why she was able to prove this. Well, I mean, his wife was the breadwinner anyway. So, I mean, you being bribed by another woman with money, that's giving me low vibrational anyways. I mean, you easily being lured because of money, and your wife was the breadwinner at home anyways. That's giving me clearance rack mentality anyhow. No, you cannot. However, everyone has free will. Exactly. Everyone has free will. How are you stepping out on somebody who's already, you know, providing, loving, providing, supporting, and being the breadwinner? And you stepping out, you got the audacity? Really? Like, ninja, please. Most cases, men who cheat are insecure. Secure men don't cheat. They just lead to someone on their low level. Exactly. Like, y'all, I could say so much, but I'm not. I'm not. I'll remain the hostess with the mostest. Can you actually still no? Yeah. If he could be moved that easily, then he didn't want to be there in the first place. You were just for a season, not the real reason. Come on, classmate, baby. Look, and I'm a firm believer. If you feel like you got options or whatever, then don't even include me. Bye. Don't even include me if you feel like you got options. Cause I'm gonna be one. I ain't ever gonna be two. And that's respectfully, unapologetically speaking. And I ain't trying to be like, you can think what you want to think. I ain't trying to say, yes, I feel like I'm all that and then some. I'm one, I won't ever be two. And if I feel like I'm in place in two, I'm out the door quickly, expeditiously. He wanted to cheat, he choose if he wanted to cheat, he choose infidelity. Yeah. Most men, if they want to cheat, they will. And they do. And when they do, deuces, we don't hang around for that. I don't even like to share. I don't even like to share my good food. So you already know I'm not going to share my companion. There's certain things I'm just too selfish. I'm selfish as hell about, and rightfully so. You can really be that girl, and because you won't get low with them, they go find someone who supports. Yeah, they supports their dysfunction. Exactly. They always will do that. They always would do that. Don't let a man show or tell you he don't want you more than once. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Okay. By the way, Akira handled that. I can tell she's a woman with high standards and intelligent, and that's not to knock anyone because most would have went upside both heads. Right. Like, yeah. Right. Once a man show you his true colors, leave. Like the comments, like the comment. That means y'all got some good heads on y'all shoulders. Good heads on y'all shoulders. But yeah, look, so we're gonna wrap that one up. But there's another trending um look, well, congratulations to Kira, because I know that I know probably this was tough, putting her business out there and then, letting everybody know pretty much, what was going on, how it was going on, all that kind of stuff. And then her kids, being exposed to that as well. So, um, but, at the end of the day, I pray that, they get some therapy and some healing um, take place because it's going to be needed. It's going to be needed for both sides, actually, and that she get the necessary support that she needs as well because she's a beautiful person and that she deserves the love that's going to love her like she deserves to be loved. And so, and I definitely support that. So, um, we're gonna move on to our next one. So, there's another trending. If I don't know if you guys, there's another podcaster that I follow, Dear Future Wifey, podcaster, host, and he is getting married, y'all, next Saturday. And he did not share. He has not shared who his fiance is. And so, and so those of you who might follow his podcast and his following, um, it's a Christian based following, and it's based off of finding Christian spouse and the you know um, Christian based principles and dating and all those kinds of things, whatever. And so he's been divorced before, and so this will be his second marriage. And so he shared about, he's shared on some things about how, he's learned some things from on the first marriage and the divorce and healing from that and all these things, so he's been very transparent or whatever. And so what he haven't been transparent is who this fiance is. And so it's been a curiosity to all of those who are following him. And so the mystery bride is what he's calling it. He is scheduled to be married on November 22nd, and it will be aired live. Um, and so that's when we will find out who the bride is. or whatever. And so I honestly, y'all, if I had to give a guess, y'all, if I had to give a guess, and based off this picture, if I had to give a guess, y'all know who I think the wife is, or the future wife is? Who do y'all think it is based off this picture or whatever? Do y'all want to take a stab at it? We're gonna all find out on 22nd for sure. But I have my guess, and y'all know I'm normally, I'm normally pretty like hands on with kind of with things, whatever. When I be kind of pinpointing people together or whatever. And so this person that I think he's marrying, she's been on a lot of podcasts, and she's considered like a doctor or therapist or whatever. And so I think that's who his secret bride is or whatever. And so she's been on, I know she's been on the conversation um podcast that comes here in DC a lot. She's been on Cam Newton's podcast. She's been on I think she's been on Shannon Sharp's podcast. Who else podcast? I think she's been on Jamal Bryant's podcast. Who else podcast I've seen her on? Trying to think who else. But anywho, if y'all want to take a stab at it, but I'm excited because one, she's always talked about, you know, the principles and what she's looking for in her person. And of course, it's always biblical, and it's always principles in a spouse that, she's specific. And so when I seen this or whatever, and before he even posted the picture, I thought of her. So before he even posted a picture, I thought of her. No, not Carly Red. No, not Carly Red. No, she's a doctor. She's a therapist. Um, Her name is, I think it's Dr. I want to say her name is Dr. Cheyenne Bryan or something. Cheyenne, what was her name? Dr. Cheyenne. She be on the conversation piece all the time. Let look her up because I want to make sure I say her name right. Jada, look her up for me. You know who I'm talking about? I think it's Dr. Cheyenne Bryant. So Jada, look her up. She's a psychologist, and post her picture, Jada. Um, that's what I think it is. And so if we're right and that's who it is on the 22nd, I'm gonna hit him up and I'm gonna be like, so Jada posted on our thing. And so that way, if we're right, I'm gonna make sure he looks at our page and say we called it or whatever. And so that way he can get Chit Chat Pod a shout out. Um, but that's who I think it is. And but if it is her, I would be totally excited for the both of them because I think it would be great for the both of them. And I think it's just gonna do wonders for their podcast. Um, I think that podcast is just gonna uh, you know, it's just gonna go up. But I'm super excited to find out. I'm nosy for one, but I'm super excited to find out who it is, and it's gonna be live. So but if you want to find out, Jada, if you can post that back again, if you can want to find out, it has the link that you can send, and they'll send you the link that they'll send you to watch, so that way you can find out that you can watch the wedding live. It's three separate times, I think. Uh, Do it show it on there, Jada? I think it's 3 separate times. It's 3 separate times that it's showing on the 22nd. So, that way you'll be able to see, but it but you have to, like, send a you can't just watch it. Like, you have to, send a thing, and they'll send you the link. So, because it's of course, it's a private thing, it's a wedding. So, and you might have to register to his podcast to be able to watch it. So I'm not sure, but that's who I think it is. I think it's her. I think it's Dr. Cheyenne Bryant that his secret bride is, and yeah, I think it's her. So we're gonna see, guys. If I'm right, Jay to my ain't nobody finna do all that. I'll wait until they post. But we'll post it for sure for next week. But yeah, so that's what I'm excited about because I do follow him. So anybody else that follows him, that is going on for next week, the 22nd. We will have the Love Doctor next week. So definitely check in next week for him. The 30th of November, I will have another author, another one of my friends who wrote a book. She will be on with her book review that she's doing a book tour on, getting ready to do a book tour on. So she's going to be sharing her book biography about her life story. And gosh, y'all got to know this girl's story. And so that's going to be on the 30th. And so you guys don't want to miss that. So yeah, next week we got the Love Doctor back. And then the 30th, after Thanksgiving, if you guys have an opportunity to catch the show on that Sunday, it will be my friend with her book review for her autobiography of her life. And so but yeah, I'm so super excited about the things that are coming to Chit Chat Podcast. I had somebody hit me up and say, "Hey, how can I book for Chit Chat Podcast from LinkedIn?" And so I was pretty excited about sharing some information with them. So people are asking, requesting to be, to book for Chit Chat Podcast. So I'm excited about that. So we're excited to get people on and new people and people who are excited and interested in knowing about our podcast and what our podcast is all about and what our platform is all about. So continue to share and like and anytime that episode has been informational towards you or you've loved it, share it with somebody or share it on your page so somebody else can be enlightened by this episode as well. So we thank you guys for checking in today. We appreciate your support week after week. We know that Thanksgiving holiday is coming up. We appreciate all of you. We know that we have so much to be thankful for, especially those of us who are just getting back to work. So us federal employers are back at work. Tomorrow will be our third day back to work. So we're super excited about that. I'm still trying to figure out my retirement stuff because everybody's just getting back to work. So everybody's trying to figure out, can we get, getting back in systems because we've been out for over 30 days. So people are working back into systems and different things that was going on. So in a few days, I'll give it a few days. But I've already met with human resources and stuff, but we're going to figure it out and get some things going. I'll get some answers and all that kind of stuff. But nevertheless, the holiday is coming up. Be prepared to enjoy some time with your family. We are thankful for you guys. If there's anybody that that in need or whatever, hit us up on message us, let us know. You know, let us be able to be a help to somebody. We don't want no one to, have an opportunity this season and they not be able to have, a meal or anything. for the Thanksgiving holiday. So let us know, and we would definitely be able to provide that for them. So, but we want you guys to know we're thankful for you guys. We thankful for your checking in week after week. We are thankful for your support for the 2 years that Chit Chat Podcast has been in service, and going on year three. We are revamping some things, providing some extra things this year, and some things that we're trying to create not only for the pageant that is coming up for me, but also for you guys, that getting input from you guys as well. So thank you guys, thank you, thank you, thank you. But take the rest of 2025 to be thankful for some things, not only for your life, but some things that we take for granted every single day. Because if this shutdown didn't show us anything else, it showed us that there's some things that we need to, have in place and get ready and prepared for, in case there's some other things that are upcoming. So, but you guys have a great evening. I will see you guys back here next week with the Love Doctor, on our love episode, for our monthly love episode with the Love Doctor. So talk to you guys later. Have a good evening. Bye.